Welcome to the Reddit library. Today we'll be looking at r/AskReddit, where the user LucidName asks the question, "You have been accepted for an experiment. You must stay in a room with nothing but bed, toilet, food, water, and no human contact for 1 month. If you succeed for the whole month without giving up, you get $5 million. Do you accept? And what are your coping strategies to avoid mental breakdown?" No human contact. I've already got that down. You use Reddit though, which is still really far away from pure isolation from anything said by anything alive. Aren't we all just Russian bots though? It appears bot number 494620 is malfunctioning. Thank you, number 233034. A lot of push-ups, running in place, pleasuring oneself, meditation, and trying to recall specific memories in detail. I try to think about specific things I've learned in a lot of detail. I do a lot of praying. I think I try to teach lessons out loud or practice speeches, make up songs, poems, dirty limericks, jokes, etc. I try to take a topic such as outer space and recall everything that I know on this topic. I'd also daydream a lot, and probably rant about things that had troubled me in the past. I would not be ashamed or afraid to speak out loud. Why do I feel like you already do all of this? Yeah, he kinda just described a normal day for me. Duck. I'd probably figure out how to carve on the walls, create art. I was thinking the same thing, maybe write a story. You can use your food as paint, ink for this, depending on the food at least. What a delightful smell that would be. That's how you get ants. I mean friends. I would try. I'm a pretty big daydreamer, and I think that between daydreaming and sleeping, I would manage. Hope they don't have cameras. They'll see me doing 25% cringy rap with exaggerated hand movements, 25% daydreaming, 45% sleeping, 4% pleasuring oneself, and 1% eating and showering. 4% pleasuring oneself. Those are rookie numbers. You gotta get those numbers up. No crud, the number of times I pleasure myself on a boring day off would shock a 13-year-old. Please don't do it in front of one then. When did you start calling your man stick Nintendo? I think I would start talking to all of the hallucinations I would start having. I would probably do a lot of stuff that involved moving my muscles and touching the walls and floors so I don't feel so alone. Edit. This is what I was thinking when I was talking about hallucinating. Sensory deprivation is tough. I think physical exercise would be a good way to pass the time for part of the day. Yeah, and as far as the coping part, there is always the $5 million to think about. So much planning to be done, lol. The planning would fill a majority of my time. Fashion some sort of dye out of whatever food item could be appropriate. Rig up a pen using cardboard from the toilet paper tubes and start writing plans on crud tickets. Hell, just go full crazy and write on the walls with your own crud. The smell. You haven't thought about the smell. I would try to vividly remember everything I've ever liked. I'd think of songs, books, and movies I like and try to dissect what I like about them and how they relate to other things and what they mean to me. Greatest hits of memories. Think of the future. Think about what kind of life I want to live when I get out. Try to prioritize what means the most to me and plan what steps I can take when I get out to make what I've been thinking about a reality. I think it's doable if you know it's only a month and there's a reward at the end. When people go crazy from isolation, it tends to be because they have no idea if or when it will end. Even if it does end, the future still tends to be bleak. The hopelessness is what gets you, not the isolation. Seriously, just the thought of the $5 million would make me so excited and optimistic about my future. And 30 straight days of no work? Sign me up, lol. You could subsist for a day or two alone on what you'll spend the money on when you get out. It only takes like 2 seconds to think of illicit drugs. What are you talking about? 1 minute in, we're already past strippers, jet skis, prostitutes, investments, first trophy wife, mansion, and suicide. By 10 minutes in, I'd be pleasuring myself to hallucinations of 9/11. I couldn't last a month. I think $5 million for a month would entice me to give it a go, and I imagine the thought of that much money would motivate me to stick it out. But I am aware of the effects of solitary confinement and how it can have lasting effects on you. I spend most of my time alone, so the lack of people wouldn't bother me, I don't think. However, I don't spend all my time alone just eating, drinking, sleeping, and staring at 4 walls, which I would be doing in the experiment. That would be tough. Edit. I also think a difficult aspect of the experiment would be not knowing what's happening in the world around you. With information always seconds away with our devices, a month without that information at our fingertips would be irritating, in my opinion. This is what I enjoyed about boot camp, basic training. Not having access to information for 3 months felt liberating. I can imagine it does, but it's such a habit for me to Google almost every rambling thought that pops into my head. I wouldn't be able to do that in the experiment. I'd probably have a full-on mental breakdown at some point. It would be hell and I'd hate it, but the month would end, and I'd have $5 million and a pretty good premise for a book. We would break down. The real factor is, can you rebuild yourself? I could probably sleep without a bed, so I would tear it apart and use the shreds to make a village out of dolphin people. I could color them somewhat using the food and water to spice things up. After the village is complete, I would convince myself that I am a dolphin too, and would make whale noises for the next 4 weeks as I attempt to learn their language. If I'm lucky, I might even get a job as a shell slinger at the local stadium. This is beautiful. All other responses are methods to avoid going nuts, but you would just jump into the crazy pool head first. Fight fire with crazier fire. Happy cake day. What the duck? This is my favorite comment in the whole thread. As long as I could wash too, because you don't mention a bath. Without that wouldn't be a deal breaker to me trying it, but would probably be what caused me to quit. Like unlimited food of my choosing? I think if I could do that, I'd be okay. I spent 16 hours in a detox cell after getting a DWI though, and I was already counting and recounting bricks and getting a little anxious by the time I got out. Every time they brought food, I felt a little relief. I think it would be tougher than people think. There's that scene from Count of Monte Cristo, where one prisoner says something to the effect of, "There are 1,347 bricks in my cell. I've counted them many times." And the other, much older, prisoner says, "But have you named them yet?" Edmund. There are 72,519 stones in my walls. I've counted them many times. Abby Faria. But have you named them yet? That's chilling. Ha! Been in prison for 4.5 years. I've got this standing on my head. Workout, body weight fitness, nap, a lot. Pleasure oneself, a lot. No problem. I spent 6 hours in a holding cell once and my brain started freaking out because there is nothing to do. No bed, no food or water, literally just a toilet. Made me realize how much entertainment we constantly have access to in the real world. I would probably lose my mind in prison. 5 million sounds tempting. This study appears to be close to a full sensory deprivation, so different from OP's challenge, but nobody lasted more than 7 days. They wore goggles and earphones to limit their sense of sight and hearing, and gloves to limit their sense of touch. The plan was to observe students for 6 weeks, but not one lasted more than 7 days. None of the students became the smell-taste equivalent of Daredevil. Ducking amateurs. Try to not count the days, just let them pass. I try to sleep as long as possible. Definitely take really long to do basic things like use the bathroom, eat, clean up, to pass the time. Try to keep everything uniform by making designated areas for dirty plates. Make my bed military style to keep me sane. Probably try not to repeat the same process over and over, or it'll get repetitive and I'll start to go crazy. Edit. Lots of people are calling me out on discrepancies and flaws. To be honest, I wrote this while I was tired and didn't put much thought into it. Sorry to this were that are for some reason frustrated with me for not being perfect on my answer. I'm not really sure what that last sentence was. There's no way to tell time anyway. I think that's the part that would make me the most scared. A week? Sure, no problem. But after that, man, it's gonna be so hard to know when the day begins or ends, and I might be 16 days in but feel like it should already have been 30. Not knowing how close I am to completing the 30 days would be excruciating. 1 month in an empty room in exchange for enough money to comfortably retire on and never work again in my life? I'd take that deal. To keep sane, I'd meditate and maybe make a pillow fort or do something with the food other than eat it. I could make macaroni art on the floor. It would be challenging, but definitely worth it. Fusilli Jerry. Macaroni art. You're thinking the right way. Roger agrees. Name checks out. All of these people thinking it would be easy should watch Alone. It's a History Channel show with a similar premise. What's different that OP does if you have no task to keep you busy? I would specifically look at Season 3 for those interested. The winner barely lasted 87 days. I doubt he would have made 30 with nothing to do. I'm not saying people cannot do it. I'm saying that isolation is a punishment for a reason. It breaks people. It messes with your mind. Sorry, I would go insane. I wouldn't do that for 5 million unless I could have an opt-out button. That seems to be the only way to reasonably do it. Anyone that finished would possibly go crazy, but if you could leave any time, you would save yourself a lot of pain if you wanted to try. Do it in a New York minute. Just sleep as much as possible, and best my pecker till it looks like Freddy Krueger's face from Rub Burns. Edit. This is my top-rated comment. Couldn't be more proud. Edit 2. Thank you, stranger, for the gold. So basically, the only thing that's changing in day-to-day life is you're moving into a cell for 30 days? How would you complete this 30-day challenge for $5 million with virtually no contact with the outside world? Let us know in the comments below, and you might get a chance to be featured in an upcoming video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more videos from the library. Thank you for watching.